Have you ever lost something, run off with your childhood friends and lost a toy or had someone steal your bike? Have you ever opened your wallet to find you've miscalculated or miscounted the amount of cash that you had? You ever been through a bad breakup? Those are rough times. Losing a pet, a friend, or even worse, a family member can be emotionally devastating. As someone who lost both of my parents before I was 26 years old, I empathize and sympathize with anyone who's going through that grief or has gone through that grief. In this video, I'm going to be sharing the completion of an acrylic painting commission, a memorial piece. I know this subject can be dark and macabre. I intend to discuss it from an artistic perspective. No disrespect intended. I hope you enjoy. This is the first in a series. CHC in depth, art in memorial. When approaching this project, I felt like getting a likeness was paramount. I felt the weight of the undertaking. People throughout history have faced loss. One of the ways that we found to overcome this grief is to create memorials. Psychologists say that memorials help survivors come out of the distress and trauma of the loss in a more beneficial manner, if not a rewarding one. Historically, memorials have been around since at least Neanderthal. Archaeology shows us that we probably started with simple, temporary memorials, placing flowers, foods, and seeds at temporary burials or communal burials. This would eventually evolve into wooden crosses and into headstones and so on and so forth. Anthropologists point to stories and ceremonies that evolved over time as memorial, as well as different ways of preparing graves and bodies. And in a similar way and respect, I got my materials ready and began to prepare my canvas. Preparation is fundamental in a piece like this. I gessoed the canvas in my living room. And returned to the studio to lay down a ground. I used yellow and purple to tone the canvas and to highlight where the subject was going to be. I also tried a doodle grid for the first time to ensure the likeness. After all, like I said, this subject is very personal to the client. It worked out beautifully, and I look forward to trying a doodle grid later on in the future. Similarly to this painting, we see humanity progress with more and more personal memorials as time has gone on. Even the places we place our loved ones have become memorials unto themselves. Personally, I find cemeteries beautiful, serene in a way. They prompt contemplation. Vienna Central Cemetery is one of the biggest, most historic, and beautiful that I've ever been to. Hollywood Cemetery in Richmond, Virginia was a regular place to reflect and sketch when I lived in the area. Today we most commonly use gravestones and memorial plaques in cemeteries to remind us of our beloved lost. By applying a dark background made from ultramarine blue and Payne's gray, I was able to highlight this area where the subject was going to be and pull out the contrast between the background and the foreground. Having this darker tone also will give me something to compare my darkest darks to make sure that I'm getting everything balanced in the image. I began mixing all the various colors I had pulled out in order to find a middle tone skin tone. Now, where was I? Ornate statues, shrines, and mausoleums were more prevalent among the deep-pocketed and the most influential in our society. Having an artist sculpt a statue or an architect design a mausoleum is an expensive endeavor. Some communities, patrons, and governments would provide the dead with a resting place next to a church or in a reserved plot at a government-run cemetery. Looking at you, Mozart. Following a tradition going back far as ancient Egypt and quite more affordable, a death mask or coffin mask would be created, a practice that continues currently in certain parts of the world. The ability to capture a person's likeness made these memorials so much more intimate and personal. I started applying thin, dark paint as landmarks to keep my drawing in order, make sure everything was where it was supposed to be, and then I started using that mid-tone to fill in the skin. I noticed pretty quickly that I had plotted out his right hand inaccurately, but I just planned to adjust it later. Boy, do I enjoy the process of creating sometimes. Some fantastical buildings have been created to help us remember specific events and people in the past. Think of the Taj Mahal from Mumtaz Mahal. Or the pyramids for Pharaoh Khufu, or Cheops if you're nasty. I will exclude from this discussion churches, castles, and war monuments. Although these locations are beautiful and frankly majestic, here's why I'm not going to dive into them. First, in sake of time. Second, because I find the line between memorial and propaganda is often blurred. And third, because many of the places designated as memorials were not intended to be memorials upon their construction. Not all monuments are built to be memorials. Only after future events and their survival did they become memorials outside of their intended purpose. I'm also going to omit natural geological monuments. Obviously, because a natural work is a bit off topic from what we're discussing here. Let's check back in with the other artwork. I felt like my likeness was solid. Getting in his arms and refining the flesh rendering became my next objective. I added layer upon layer of gradually thicker paint. This technique makes for a subtle variation and makes certain that I can stop and address quickly any problem that should arise. Now, what were we talking about? Other forms of memorial. Over time, we formed other ways to memorialize those we've lost. Headstones, plaques, and statues became more affordable and also in fashion. Thus, how these became the most common form of memorial. In the 16th and 17th century, mourning portraits became all the rage in Europe. That's an easy way to get your model to sit still, I guess. Governments began placing laws on body disposal, cemeteries were evolving into memorial gardens, and we began making roadside memorials, improvised out of the things we had lying around, and encouraging passers-by to reflect and think as they were passing by on the street. Crosses often draw our eyes to the side of the highway. Some more polished than others, but no less meaningful. Ghost bikes are made for cyclists who died while cycling. White bikes chained to road signs as a poignant reminder. Memorial scholarships are often given in remembrance of the dead who was of student age. People create running events like physically running marathons. Flags are folded and presented to the survivors of dead military veterans. Hell, you can even get your ashes pressed into an album these days. Even modernity peeks its head up with remembrance websites and social media pages dedicated to our friends that we've lost. I needed to clean up the eyes of the portrait. I cooled my ivory white with a dot of ultramarine blue to fill the whites of the eyes, following with various browns for the irises. Cleaned up the skin and added a mild highlight to the face. Being effectively a novice in acrylic painting, the idea of getting all these fabric wrinkles was a bit nerve-wracking and maybe a little overwhelming. I went over all the tips and tricks that I could remember and just started. My expectations were subverted here. I'm very impressed with the way this jersey worked out. I love the result. With his jeans and jersey effectively completed, I moved on to the jewelry. Jewelry being historically a symbol of reward, wealth, it almost echoes the grave goods that were buried with our loved ones in the past and currently. Polish off each piece of jewelry with a bit of pearlescent paint mixed with white just to give it a little pop and shimmer. I personally have a memorial flag that was given to me at my father's funeral, and some of my mother's ashes are literally blown into a glass ornamental piece that I keep in my living room. No matter how we show it, we have an innate need to memorialize, to remember. I was emotionally overwhelmed when I lost my parents. Each year that passes, I become more and more aware of my own mortality. When it comes to memorials, I would posit that creating something ourselves offers the largest amount of personal reward. Imagine going through that creative process with that person's mind and image and being right there close to your heart, and think about how therapeutic that could be. Creating art to remember somebody is the most personal way to say, I've loved and I've lost. I've faced this grief. I've loved and cared for someone. Creating a memorial piece maybe could help us be better than before the loss even occurred. I'm thankful I could do this for my patron. I feel like a portrait is a beautiful way to memorialize somebody. Maybe this painting won't be placed on any sort of historic registry or be hung in the walls of some museum, but that isn't really the point, is it? I hope you enjoyed this, as bleak as it was to discuss. Please like the video if you did. Take a look around you this week. You'd be surprised the amount of memorials and monuments that surround you. Then ask yourself, why are they there? It may be something positive, and it may be to remind you of something negative. And may we all have someone who cares so much about us when it comes our time. Now, find me on my other social media. You know where to find me at. Comment below your favorite piece of memorial art, whether it was in this video or something you just love yourself. And let me know if you like this format and the idea of this series. I didn't go super in depth in this. I mean, I was considering doing up to an hour-long video, and if you'd be interested in going in depth into some artistic subjects while I create another piece of artwork, let me know in the comments. I really appreciate you being here. I'm trying to get the channel up to 500 subs so that we can get a community tab. Help me out by hitting that subscribe button. And remember, guys, life is what you create. So create something awesome.